spawning in the upper left, in the blue, he is representing the Afrika Freaks, the Korean Protoss. He is Stats. And his opponent in the bottom right, showing new form, new dominant form here in this tournament and in the past several weeks for the Dragon Phoenix Gaming. He is ZEST. So as I alluded to in the intro, ZEST has shown a real upswing in form over the last several weeks. He's gone from, oh yeah, he's a Protoss player that can beat anyone, because he has beaten everyone in the past, but yeah, he's not looking all that great at the moment, to, wow, ZEST looks like at the top of his form. He looks like the player that got second place at Katowice last year. He looks like the player that Royal Roaded the GSL. He looks like a dominant player. And yes, while I do understand that online cups don't necessarily have the same implications that offline cups do, or bigger events. I mean, everything is online this year, but, you know, a $400 tournament, while it's nice, and while players are trying hard for it, they're maybe not showing as many strats, playing quite as hard as they would do for, you know, a World Championship, that, for example. Even then, ZEST has had a great run through this tournament thus far, and he's looked damn good in all the other things that he has been doing. In fact, you know, he just recently, well, he did very well at the GSL Super Tournament, the first one of this year, where he narrowly lost to Joan on Joan's way to the finals, where he was eventually beaten down by Trap. So that's what we're looking at, and we're gonna have to see exactly what these players go for, because again, ZEST on his way to losing to Joan, but still it was a close series. ZEST showed some mastery in PvP. Now, of course, it's a little bit surprising to see him play in Korea, because he has taken recently to just beating down ESL North America Cups. We saw that happen in week number 57, I believe, where Stats did not lose a single map on the way to just absolutely dominating the NA Cup. So we're gonna have to see exactly what ZEST has ready for Stats here. As of course, this is the finals. You know, $200 goes to the winner, $100 goes to the loser. Which is, it's not a small pool. On the scale of online cups, it's actually relatively up there. You know, most of them, prize pool's about under $100. Exxon Cup, for example, I think it's about $100 prize pool, but that is pool, that is not prize to first place or second place. So there we go. We will see ZEST move on in here, but hey, there is a pylon. And when the pylon is there, the Adepts will not be able to get on in, and notice this ZEST realizes that, okay, the Stalkers of Stats are going to try to find my Adepts now. So what am I going to do? I'm going to back up. I'm going to go home. I'm not going to be, what you see a lot of players from other regions do, just kind of keep them out somewhere else and try to send them later on in. The meta here of Korea is, or at least the meta of Stats versus ZEST, is a lot more of, I want to remove this threat from the map. I want to move my Stalkers across the map, because of course, ZEST did see some number of the unit counts. And now we've Stats looking to really, hopefully if he gets lucky here, he's going to be able to get a Sentry piece. This is 4 Sentry to Adept, and that is not a solid defensive force. Now, a couple Stalkers will get warped in, and that suddenly makes the force a little bit more powerful, but at the moment, I mean, there's just not a lot of DPS in this army, but look at these force fields. ZEST should be able to get one of these Stalkers. Actually, though, Stalkers will be forced out for the moment. The Oracle's going to look to run on into the main base, into the natural, and, well, ZEST is mostly on top of this. The Oracle will still get some damage done behind that, because Stats has superlative Oracle control, and we're going to see 3, 4, maybe 5. No, okay, just four workers go down right now. But there is a second Oracle on the way, and Stats already showing a really nice tempo lead here in this game. Yeah, he has not reached worker parity yet. We're gonna have to see whether he will be able to. But with the shield battery there, no, the Oracle will be shoved out. But we have a second. No, it does not have enough energy though, and 3 Stalkers in the natural. ZEST will be fine. Oh. Let's see. So we have stats here. He went for an Oracle first, but behind that, he is going for a faster +1 than his opponent. Well, assuming he actually gets his +1 started in some sort of reasonable timing here, because of course, well, he put money in the blink, and then, well, okay, there's not enough money for +1, not enough gas for +1 yet, but theoretically, he will have +1 first, and there we go. +1 now on the way. The Forge is about halfway done for ZEST. So, realistically, stats, yeah, he's down 3 workers, which is maybe not what you want when you opt for a double Oracle opener. And yes, ZEST's third base is faster, but also, he's going to have +1 faster. He's going to have blink. Well, actually, he's not going to have blink faster, but he will have +1 faster. And that will allow him to, well, have a stronger fighting army in the mid game as he tries to figure out exactly what he wants to get done here. And it does feel that stats may be looking for that timing. We do not see a third base on, well, as I say that, third base now on the way. So stats actually will have that third base started as the third base of ZEST is mostly done. And this kind of makes me think, again, what I was saying earlier, just a little bit, that stats may be looking to really make use of this +1 blink timing, where his army will be that much better, and maybe he can actually make something happen, because his base is going to be almost a full base build's duration behind that of his opponent. So now we've kind of hit that mid-game lull, the gentleman's agreement that Protoss players so often go for, where you're both on 3 bases. It's a hard map to attack into on both sides. Yeah, you don't really have all the tech that you want yet, but you still have something, so you're difficult to attack on into. And so both players, instead of, you know, going all out on a 2-base timing or something like that, instead, they just like, okay, look, I'm going to get my 3rd base, I'm going to advance my tech even further, I'm going to get a 4th base rather quickly if you're ZEST, and I'm going to go from there. And this is where we see our first deviation in the 2 build orders of the 2 players. We have stats, he's going for Blink Stalker Disruptor, which again, I don't hate Blink Stalker Disruptor, it's incredibly powerful composition, and if you feel like you're behind, which stats very well may feel like just a little, because again, his 3rd was later, he did not get a whole lot of worker damage done with the double Oracle. Well, that's a really good option to go for, because, well, disruptors don't care about supply leads as long as they can get their Novas off. On the flip side, ZEST going for something a little bit more bruiser, a little bit just more, look, I got a lead here, I'm going to run it into your faces. He's taking a 5th base! ZEST! He's taking a 5th base as his 4th completes. Stats is only on 3, and, yeah, okay, getting a base ahead of your opponent's really nice, don't get me wrong, but I almost wonder that going 2 bases up, that might be a little bit too greedy for the Dragon Phoenix Gaming player, but maybe not. Now this, we will see this Observer get blunk upon, and it will not go down. Nice reaction there from stats, paying attention to things. But you gotta remember, the goal here from ZEST is not really to get aggressive. I mean, sure. Would he hate it? No, ZEST saying, okay, well, with my 4 bases, my soon-to-be 5 bases, what am I going to do? Well, you have double Robo, the Disruptor, my friend stats. I have triple Robo Disruptor. That is going to be my play, and that is how I'm going to beat you. I'm just going to have enough Disruptors to blot out the sun. And that is exactly what ZEST is going for here. Now, we do have stats now, finally, he's taking his 4th base. But his 4th base is starting up as the 5th base of stats is finishing. There we go, 3 Disruptors at a time. Observer, is that, I'm never quite sure whether that's Warp Prism or Observer Speed. The logos look so similar. But anyway, now we do have ZEST on the right-hand side here, looking to maybe take advantage of the fact that stats is taking this 4th base, and therefore totally positioned around the 4th base. Now, he will see these the stasis wards, so he does know that, okay, maybe I gotta be a little bit careful here. And then he's just gonna back up. Okay, 1 probe does go down, but ZEST is being very careful in this game. He realizes that he does have an advantage, but it's not exactly a usable advantage quite yet. But stats, double Colossus, extended thermal lance now on the way for our blue Protoss player, and this is questionable. Stalkers are rather good against Colossus if they blink on top and kill them, and Disruptors are really good against Colossus. So I'm rather surprised to see this. Okay, we'll have Stalkers blink forward, just trigger all of these stasis traps. I'm surprised we just don't see the Observer killing that off, but yeah. what can you do? So we have, I believe, 2 Colossi on the map, 2 more on the way. Stats going for a rather interesting opening here in this game. And it should be noted that ZEST is not aware of this, I don't believe. ZEST has not seen... Yeah, ZEST has not seen these disruptors. Okay, has not seen these Colossi, excuse me. So it will be 4 Colossus as the tech path for stats, but ZEST, I feel like he is already surpassing that. We have 2 or 3 Stargates on the way. Well, we have 2 more Stargates on the way. One already exists. We see Fleet Beacon on the way, plus 1 air attack on the way. And Colossi are only so good, but if you get a bunch of Tempests, if you get a bunch of nice force fields from both players, but both will be forced to blink back at the end. There we go. Sentry does go down. Anyway, you will, if you get a bunch of carriers, if you get a bunch of Tempests, and this is for Stargate, whatever it is, by the way. Looks like we're going to see a Void Ray to start things off. Interesting. I would have thought to see ZEST go for something a little bit higher tech. And if he buys anything before the Fleet Beacon, you would expect it to be an Oracle, so he can go on in and, well, get vision on his opponent. But we will see stasis traps. We always see players try. I always see players try to do this, like extra stasis trap on top of the stasis units, but you cannot stasis a trapped unit, so it just kind of ends up being a waste of energy. Okay, so we should see. Okay, this is the Colossus reveal. If ZEST was already not aware of things, I don't believe he was, to be honest. He should be now. Alright, so we're going to see the Stalkers just look to target things down. And again, this is the timing that ZEST has to be afraid of. Now, there are a lot of Disruptors here, and the Stalkers will just blink on top of them, and most of the Stalkers will go down. There we go. So nothing ventured, nothing gains here. Stalk and Blink is around. 2 Disruptors go down, but at the expense of a couple Stalkers. That being said, though, now we have 4 carriers on the way, and there's not a lot of anti-Earths. It's some Stalkers, yes, but it's not a ton. Disruptor shots should do a really good job of zoning out until then. Look at all these Zealots coming from the right-hand side, though. ZEST forced to blink away, and those Disruptor shots are just going to knock out every single Disruptor of ZEST. Now, yes, ZEST does have a good economy. Yes, ZEST does have a good bank, but none of that matters in the slightest. If the army of stats is here, it is dominant, it is loud, it is proud, and it is annihilating the base of ZEST here. And yeah, we have carriers on the way, but carriers without any sort of ground defense are not all that useful when there are 4 Stalkers. So carriers, they're coming on in here. One's getting blinked down, second's going to get targeted down, and are we going to see any more go down? Looks like not really. Oh, we will. Okay, there we go. Stalkers blinking up onto the high ground. Carrier 3 goes down. Carrier 4 is going to get knocked down here, and despite this, somehow ZEST is in a somewhat relevant army supply. Sees a massive circling run by on into the natural here of his opponent. He's knocked off some tech already. 1 robo already. We're going to see this base maybe get targeted down. Yes, ZEST does have the upgrade lead for the time being, but he will lose his natural as well. He's lost his 4th. He will lose the natural. And more importantly, all of the Stargates are getting depowered. So ZEST is going to really struggle to get up into the high ground here. Now, he does have an upgrade lead for another 4 seconds, but that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. As now the Stalkers, they're just clumped up. They need a blink on top and over, but they can't do that because Disruptors are there. And GG Stats, he takes game 1. What a move there from Stats. Really just hitting that nice timing that his opponent did not want to give him. But Stats found that opening where ZEST was in the middle of the Stargate transition. He had 4 carriers coming on in at a time, so his supply was good, but a lot of that was stuck in production. That ZEST had to defend 5 bases, and with those 2 things being together, suddenly Stats is hitting here with a much more powerful army in a rather crisp timing. So Stats takes game number 1, but this is a best of 5. We got more games where that came from. We're going to load on into game number 2 now. It is on Death Aura. Stats ZEST. Stats with that 1-0 lead. But again, it's best of 5. We're just going to look to see ZEST do what he can to equalize the score. As now, we are on in to game number 2. Spawning in the bottom right, in the blue, representing the Afrika Freaks, up 1 game to 0. He is Stats. And his opponent in the upper left, in the red, going for something rather cheeky here in this game number 1. Or game number 2, excuse me. He is ZEST. Look at that pylon positioning. Look at this probe movement. We can also see in the production tab. But even before then, we knew ZEST, he's going for a little bit of a rush of cannons in this game number 2. As he says, you know what, game number 1, it went long. I kind of lost that game. I probably should have won. I was in a good spot, but I lost to a timing. And I don't really want to play on this map because it's Death Aura and it is defensive as hell. I'm just going to drop some cannons. And now we do see Stats here. He is going to go for a counter cannon rush of his own as he looks to try to defend. And good news for Stats here, he has managed to keep his opponent's probes out. That is problem 1A. That is the first thing you're looking at to see whether, okay, am I going to be able to hold this appropriately? Because if the probes get on into the main base quick enough, well then, okay, he's going to, oh my god, Stats, you're god. That is actually, I think this means this game is over. And I'm not even being facetious here. The probes can do nothing either on the high ground or the low ground. There's no room for them to drop any building. They will never get out of this gate. I mean, we will see ZEST here. He's going to go try to break this down. Actually, ZEST will be able to break this down, and suddenly he has 2 probes on in the main base. So we will see cannons on the high ground here because, wait a minute. I'm sorry. That was a pylon from ZEST, not a pylon from Stats. And that means these cannons are up on the high ground immediately, and far from being a Stats victor here and going up 2-0. No, this is ZEST looking damn good. He's 4 cannons on the way, and yes, there are 3 cannons on the way from Stats, but you got to remember, okay, these probes will go down, but they've done half damage on this cannon on the high ground. So these 4 cannons should absolutely just DPS the cannons of Stats down rather quickly. There we go. 1 goes down. Second one will get targeted down here because it is unequal DPS. And that is all that matters here. The cannons killing off some probes, and actually, okay. So unequal DPS here, but now that means this cannon on the high ground owns part of the mineral line, and it does mean that we will see all the pylons go down, all the production of Stats go down. Meanwhile, of course, dueling probes on the other side of the map. ZEST wants to make sure that he does not get cannon rushed on his side of the map, and there we have a GG. ZEST in a rather weird cannon rush takes game 2. Well, that was the thing. I really thought, I don't know why I thought that there was no way that was, there was 0 chance that was Stats Pylon, but you know what? You live and learn. I was getting really excited there for a second, but apparently I just cannot read. I've been spending too much time on Wall Street bets, apparently, and I've lost my ability to read. Anyway, game number 3 will be on Juggernaut. And it's now just effectively a best of 3. We got it loaded up. Let's go. Spawning in the bottom left. In the blue, falling to Cannon Rush in game number 2. He is Stats. And his opponent in the upper right in the red. On this longest of maps, he is ZEST. So no shenanigans coming on up here in this game number 3. Not yet, at the very least. We may see something later on, but looks like we have double gate expands coming in from both players here. That makes sense. Juggernaut is not exactly a map you single gate expand on for the most part. The ramp is too wide open, although we do see crazy players like MaxPax do it on occasion, but he single gate expands more than I see any other player do it, but of course he only does it, well, that's not quite true, but he does it a lot after he cannon rushes his opponent. So whether or not he thinks a gate expand is good is a whole lot, is an idea of game planning as much as it is anything else. Because MaxPax has that aura of, I'm just going to hit you with something cheesy and cheeky as quick as possible. ZEST, Stats, they don't really have that idea. I mean, yes, they will mix in cheeses on occasion, but they don't have this idea in your head that, oh, well, he cannon rushed me once, he's probably going to do it again. Oh, he cheesed me once, he probably is going to throw out something similar that the player can then make use of. I mean, ZEST and Stats, they are known for their incredibly crisp timings. They're known for impeccable play and fancy builds and all that, but look at this. We got ZEST with a little bit of a mining disruption here. Now, he was not able to quite trap any probes, which is something you could do if you put the pylon right there. You could kind of trap 2 probes against this mineral patch if you're very fast and very lucky, but this is consistent scouting, and it does mess with the mining just a little, as we notice here. Both players are even on workers, but Stats is mining just marginally more efficiently. About 60 more resources a minute, which is, you know, not a ton, but it is actually something that is somewhat significant. And once again, Stats saying, okay, well, I won game number 1 and I opened Stargate. Therefore, if I will win game number 3 if I open Stargate. That's the thing, right? That's exactly what I want to do. And we're going to have to see exactly how well that works out for him, because realistically, it didn't work out terribly for him in the previous game. Or in game number 1. He got some good damage done. But at the end of the day, he did not win because he got an Oracle. In fact, he actually, I mean, really, yeah, he got some damage done, but not nearly as much as he would have liked. And it looks like ZEST is going for maybe some proxy DTs here in this game number 3. Notice the probe is still there. Notice there's a pylon, and we do have a Templar Archives on the way. Really nice force fields there from ZEST. We'll capture we'll trap one of these Stalkers immediately. And yes, sentries don't do a ton of damage, but if you get enough of them, they absolutely will. So there we go. We have a couple of Adepts getting warped in on the other side of the map. You're looking to get some sort of damage done, but that means that there are no warp-ins available for ZEST. Not really. Now, we have a shield battery finally up on the way in the main base, but that will be a little bit slow. And it is 1 Stalker, and it is 1 Stalker versus 3 Stalkers and an Oracle. Alright, so now we have Adept Shades coming on in. Is Stats paying attention? He is. Okay. That means this natural is actually under some significant threat. And actually, this is interesting. So the Adepts will allow their shade to complete, which does pull one of the Oracles back. Alright, so now we do have the shield battery in the main base, which does mean that Stats can, or ZEST can actually deal with this now. And at the end of the day, yes, Stats is marginally ahead. But not by much. It really is kind of comes all out in the wash. ZEST would be in a totally fine position. Well, not totally fine position, but I mean, he didn't have to lose the Adepts, but it did draw the Oracles home. So at the end of the day, again, it's kind of a wash here. And Stats will actually not find this pylon. Interesting. Okay, there we go. Adepts will get recalled. And now, hey, we are at Stat. Where are we at right now? Stats is a 4-worker lead. He will turn that into getting a forge vastly before his opponent. Blink is on the way for both players. And away we go. I almost wonder whether we're going to see ZEST get a little bit more aggressive in this game. I mean, again, the lack of a forge is rather concerning to me. There we go. Yep, 2 proxy gateways. Stats absolutely, or ZEST, excuse me, absolutely just trying to hit a 4-gate blink timing. And this is going to catch his opponent off guard. Now, Stats, of course, the Shield of Ire, he is incredibly good at defensive play, but it's much easier to defend things that you are aware of. Now, okay, the Oracles will get found on out here. Blink is done. But look at this. Look how ZEST is hiding his Stalker count. Now, until the very end, he says, okay, well, I'll reveal them to kill off one of your Oracles. That's fine. But we do have these 2 gates are just about done here. We may even see a 3rd. You can support more than 4 gates off of 2 bases. But no, ZEST is going to take this 3rd base. Forge is on the way. But I wonder if this is just all a fake out. I wonder whether Stats is just doing this or ZEST is just doing this to make Stats think that he's playing a macro game. Because there we go. 4 Stalkers are getting warped on in. The rest of ZEST's army is moving across the map here. This is going to be a rather difficult to defend 3rd base. Now, if ZEST waits dithers a little bit too long, his opponent will have +1. So that's going to be a little bit difficult. But now ZEST, he does find this Nexus. He does find it under, well, not all that protected. But he will be forced to blink out here. And Stats is going to blink forward to a negative trade. But we do see 4 Stalkers at a time getting warped on in here. And this is now ZEST's time to strike. But it's not all that impressive, to be totally honest. He is even on army supply. He's not ahead. Now he blinks away from his opponent. Now the Stalkers, they're going to blink on top of his sentries, but his Stalkers are blinked off of cooldown here, so they really can't do a whole lot. Now they're going to blink on top of the Stalkers of Stats, and he will take a positive trade for the moment, but now we have Stats. He's going to blink on backwards, and look at the negative vision that ZEST has. He really cannot see up that ramp. All of his sentries are down, and he is down 10 army supply with this aggressive timing that he was going for. Well, let's see how this one works out. You are at a 9-ish. You're at a 12 pro deficit compared to your opponent. You do not have as much army supply. Your tech is worse. You're lacking in upgrades. And yes, you do have a third base now done, and you are probing up behind it, but you're about to lose half your production until you get those 4 additional gateways. This is not a good position for ZEST to be in. Now, he does have charge just about done, and charge may be useful, but realistically, once these 2 gates finish, once Stats finds his way up on 8 gateways, ZEST is going to struggle. ZEST is absolutely going to struggle to find some way to find room in this game. As look at this, 8 workers go down. The Oracle finding some use for itself as ZEST, his entire army is on the other side of the map. His entire army is focused on being aggressive. Sure, that's fine, but you have to be successful with it, and ZEST has not been thus far. So ZEST does have a bit of an incoming time here where he will have equal upgrades compared to his opponent for approximately 30-odd seconds. So there we go. So +1 is done. His opponent's army is not nearly as advantageous from an upgrade perspective, but it has Archons. It is bigger, and it is 20 army supply higher. Now ZEST is going to find his way up on the high ground. The force fields will be rather nice, but Stalkers are going to blink past it anyways. And now actually ZEST blinks on the Stalkers of Stats, and I wonder whether Stats maybe was a little bit too aggressive with those blinks, but look at the Archons. Look at the charge list. They are doing so much work here. 20 army supply lead for the blue Protoss player, and GG. There we have it. ZEST. He's going to fall, and Stats. He's going to take game number 3. Alright, so now we have game number 4. We'll be on Oxide. Stats, he is looking rather good in this series. As good as ZEST has looked over the last couple months. Stats is looking damn good in this series. He has... yeah, he lost to Cannon Rush, but everything else, I mean, he looked dominant. So we're going to have to see what ZEST can do to drag this series back, because now Stats, he's on match point. Let's get into things. Here we are spawning in the upper right in the blue. Representing the Afrika Freaks. On match point, on tournament point here. He is Stats. And his opponents in the bottom left going for a gate expand because this is Oxide for Dragon Phoenix Gaming. He's ZEST. You know what's interesting? I've seen some Korean Protoss players now realizing that just this is how this build works, especially when they scout that this is a gate expand from their opponent. Not even getting their gateway and going for a pylon nexus. Sometimes even before the pylon, to make sure that they get it down before the pylon block of their opponent. Because that is the build right now where ZEST, Stats, they're both going to drop pylons on their opponent's natural, then they're going to drop cyber cores, and then, yeah, it's going to be a fun time. That being said, though, there are some really cool fake ad builds that we've started to see come on out of this. Players like MaxPax in particular, where you feign the expand. You say, oh yeah, absolutely, I'm going for a 1-gate cyber expand, whatever we want to call it. But behind that, they never get their natural. They drop a Stargate in the main base. They send a probe across the map. They start building shield batteries, and they turn it into a 1-base all-in that their opponent has committed so much to not stopping. And then it often works out rather well for them. It's a pretty cool build. We're starting to see it more and more in the meta. But I don't know whether either player is going to do that this game, especially considering there are probes in the main base for both. And we don't see, well, we don't see a Cybercore on the way on the low ground yet for either player. That being said, the stats, he's going to look to drop this just about now. There we go. Cybercore is now on the way. But not before the pylon's just about dead, which on the one hand, nice. Okay, that means that the pylon lasted just as long as possible. But on the flip side, if you drop that earlier, it gets more build time because players have to, well, make sure that it builds. So now we have the Stalker and the Zealots out. Stalker's, of course, just going to kill the probe. And this Warp Gate, this Cybercore will go on down. And ZEST just with a slight advantage in the timing of everything. Stats put his Cybercore down a little bit later in terms of build time. So that means the Cybercore of ZEST was able to stay up a little longer, have a little bit more HP. So by the time Stats started trying to kill it, it became a little bit harder for him. So that turned into a 15-second Nexus timing, which is not insignificant. But now the question we must ask ourselves is, what is the tech path that these players opt to go for out of this game? Is looks like there's a scout. I gotta love it. The scouting oracle here from ZEST, maybe trying to convince his opponent that, oh yeah, I wouldn't Stargate out of this. But no, I mean, the minute you hit that, you see how much damage it takes. You're like, okay, I know what's up here. So it looks like it will be Blink coming on in from both players. ZEST opting for a faster Robo behind this. Stats opting for the faster +1. So it's going to be Blink Immortal versus Blink +1, and we're going to have to see which player is able to wield their knife, wield the sword that they've chosen to bring to battle a little bit more adroitly. +1 Blink Stalkers, they are a powerful force, and they are a little bit more mobile. I mean, Blink Stalkers are mobile as Blink Stalkers, but when your army is pretty much only Blink Stalkers with +1, that's a good deal more mobile than Blink Stalkers with Immortals, which is what it looks like ZEST is going to go for here. There we go. Immortals are on the way. And he does have a marginal Blink timing advantage. Maybe he can do something with that, but unlikely. It's one thing to know that you have a timing. It's another thing to know that your opponent does not have a timing. So now we have ZEST moving on out. Not with much of his... This is only Immortals. Okay, now he has some Stalkers on the way, and the Warp Prism will come on in to follow this up, as it is only 4 gates to 2 at the moment. Stats going for a 2-gate expand. He does not have any more gateways on the way here. So this is actually a rather dangerous timing from our red Protoss player. Yes, he does not have +1. He will not have +1 for quite a while, but he does have Blink. He does have 3 Stalkers at a time warping on in, and this has finally been scouted. Stats is aware that the Warp Prism is moving out on the map, and that by itself should be relevant information for our blue Protoss player. And there we go. He does have the Observer. He says, okay, there's an Immortal, there are 3 Sentries, there are 3 Stalkers. This is a little bit scary. Actually, he will see the extra Stalkers too. So very well aware of what's happening. Interesting, it's only Stalkers 3x3 as we have 4 gateways. But there we go, 4 Stalker on the way. And now ZEST is just going to look for whatever damage he can find, as there we go, target the Warp Prism down, please. There we go, Warp Prism does go down. I believe it had a probe in it. Alright, now the Stalkers will find the Warp Prism of ZEST, but they don't kill it. ZEST, on top of things, the stats, he has to pay attention to the army at his front, not the Warp Prism that is warping in units. There we go, the Observer will go down as well. ZEST, he can warp in once again, and he's already taking a really nice position in this game. This Immortal doesn't have any kills yet, true, but it does a lot of damage here. And the Stalkers of Stats, as much as they will try, will not be able to get on top of that Immortal or that Warp Prism anymore, because look how ZEST is positioned. He says, okay, My Warp Prism is always near my army. If you want to jump on my Warp Prism, fine, do that. But I'm going to have my army defending, and you will take terrible, terrible losses indeed. Now, there's that. Now, of course, the downside here for Zest is his forge is now just on the way. His opponent has +2 started. So he will be at a 2 upgrade deficit for a significant portion of this game. But again, that doesn't matter if he's able to just leverage the superior economy that he has into a superior army into victory, because we have 5 more gates on the way. Charge is just about done. More and more immortals are on the way. And Zest is going to have this really powerful timing where he has 9 gateways. And he has just a ton of charge slots. And yeah, he doesn't have +1, but he doesn't need it, because just tons and tons of charge slots against Pure Blink Stalker with immortals backing it up. That is not a good situation. That is not a good army composition for Stats to fight on into, especially when he is behind in supply. Alright, Stats will blink forward, or, excuse me, Zest will blink on forward, Stats will blink back once again here. Taking some damage, but not losing any Stalkers. But now we have the army of Zest is getting ready to be aggressive once again. Now, these Stalkers, they need to be a little bit careful. They are outnumbered, they are outgunned compared to the army of Stats. But no, they're going to blink forward here, and there's not enough of them to insta-kill a Stalker. Anyway, a bunch of charges will get warped in as we have an Archon on the way here. But, again, the army from Zest, he is up 30 army supply. And yeah, he is at an upgrade deficit. He is at a 2 upgrade deficit right now, actually, but no, he's just going to blink on top of things. Says, screw this. Your army is just not good enough here. Yeah, it's powerful, but it is just not enough of it there. We will see the Archon get microed to the best of its ability, but the army of Zest looks like it's pushing on through. It is still a 20 army supply deficit, and yes, immortals are powerful, but 3 immortals are better than 1. The army of Stats is just not looking powerful enough here, and there we have it. +1 is done as well, so that 2 upgrade timing is no longer there, and GG. Stats is going to fall. Zest takes game 4. We're moving to the rubber match. Well played for there from Zest, finding the timing that he was looking for. Finding the timing, even if he was down in upgrades, did not matter. He had the army, he had the economy. And that meant that he took game number 4, and that means we're getting game number 5 for this ESL Weekly Korea Grand Finals. Here we are, spawning in the upper left, in the blue in this rubber match for the Afrika Freaks. He's Stats. And his opponent in the bottom right, in the red, representing Dragon Phoenix Gaming. Making a wonderful run back here in this series. He is Zest. So the question now is, what are we going to see on this map? This is a map that you can single gate expand on. It's not as popular as some others, but it is definitely one that you can see it happen. It is smaller though, so it's a little bit more dangerous. But it looks like neither player is going for that, as we do see the high ground pylon. We do see the high ground gateways coming on in. So we're just going to see, okay, there we go. Double gate from either player, and away we go. Now the question is, what exactly is Zest? What exactly is Stats going to go for over the context of this game? Is it Blink Stalkers again? Is it Charge First, which is not something you ever see, but no, you never know. These are creative players. Is it Stargate play? Is it a 10-minute cannon rush? Okay, probably not that one. But you never know what you're going to see in a game 5, especially. You often do see players, they play more defensive, more conservative. They go on in to make sure that they can do what is necessary, to make sure that they can defend the game, take the game into the late game, and win through sheer mechanical brilliance, or mechanical and tactical brilliance. And that is, well, I don't hate it when you see players of this caliber absolutely give me a long game. We're going to have to see exactly how these two players opt to get there, as we won't see any tech get thrown down until the probes are forced out of the bases of their opponents. And we do see a double Stalker opening from ZEST versus a double Adept opener from Stats. So, of course, Stats' opener, it's a little bit cheaper from a gas perspective. That may make him add his tech a little bit faster. That's probably what that means. It may mean he gets a Stargate faster. It may mean he gets to Twilight faster. We're going to have to see exactly what happens with that. But of course, the double Stalker opener from ZEST is a little bit more stable, a little bit more defensible. It deals with Adept openers rather well. Now we have Nexus on the way for both players here. ZEST just really spending a lot of gas to keep himself safe in the early game, and this is going to be a quad sentry double Stalker opener, and that's already a really powerful defensive army. We're gonna have to see whether ZEST is going to use it for that, though. He has shown some willingness to move out on the map with armies that are maybe not quite as aggressively inclined all that early. And I'm sorry, this is a 3 sentry opener, not a 4 sentry, but this is a lot of Adepts. This is something that we see players like Stats, I mean, this is Stats, but we've seen Stats do this, we've seen Parting do this. We just open up with like 6 Adepts, 8 Adepts, and you run across the map, you say, hey, look, even if you get a wall up, unless it's a gateway, I'm busting on through there, then I'm killing a lot of probes. And it's a pretty cool thing, because it absolutely catches the opponents off guard. That being said, of course, we do have 2 more Stalkers on the way for a grand total of 4. We have sentries, all those necessary things. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 7 Adepts? 8 Adepts. Now we're going to try to find the way. Oh, look at this. They're just going to jump on top of this. 2 sentries go down immediately. There we go. The third one's going to go down. And shield battery overcharge, yeah, it's a thing, but it doesn't really help all that much here. As the Adepts, they just one-shot probes. So Stats is getting so much damage. But look at that. We got a couple hallucinated Stalkers just try to make life a little bit harder for Stats. ZEST loses 3 workers, but more importantly, he loses 3 sentries. That was all of his defensive and scouting force gone. Okay, now the Adepts will shade on in. Once again, more and more probes will go down here. And this is actually just such a wonderful move from the Blue Protoss player. He's going to be able to get out with half of his Adept count. Well, half minus 1. But that is absolutely good enough here for Stats. Now, hey, we have a Twilight Templar Archives on the way, or Twilight Council, excuse me, on the way. War Prism's already done, so Stats absolutely leaning into this aggression. We see here on Lightshade here in this game number 5. And this is a rather refreshing decision coming from him, to be totally honest. He has played a lot of games where he just plays stock solid defensively. Doesn't do a whole lot, just waits to get on into the late game and wins with a nice timing or something. But that's not what we are seeing here, as these Adepts are being rather annoying. He's killed a grand total of 9 workers in this game. He's up 4. But more importantly, look at the army supply. Look at the tech. Yes, Stats will have, or ZEST will have a faster blink, but Immortals are already on the way. Alright, so now ZEST, he does have his blink done, and some Stalkers are doing a really good job warding this Warp Prism off, and he will have +1 faster than his opponent. As there is no Forge on the way here for Stats, but I don't think that's what we have to worry about. I think more that what we have to worry about here is the fact that ZEST, or Stats, excuse me, is adding 4 gateways. His blink is just about done, and I worry with 4 gateways on the way, so that's going up to a total of 6 gateways on 2 bases. Suddenly we have to be very worried of the idea that Stats is going to go for a really aggressive option here in this game. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. All right, so now, oh, look at this. Stats has found a good position where he is walling off his opponent. He is forcing his opponent to be away between his base and his army, and that means that Stats is just going to find this opener. Now, he will try to take this fight against the army of ZEST in the mid game, but ZEST really can't do that. Not really, and there we go. Third base on the way here for Stats, but that's not even what I'm worried about. His army is, okay, not all that much more, not much more powerful than his opponents, but these two Immortals are doing some crazy, crazy things. Now, the one thing that Stats has to be careful of, he does not want to get surrounded and killed off, but look at these force fields. He's just killing more and more and more sentries, and that means that the value of his army, even if the army supply is a little bit lower for the moment, as we see Warpins coming on in, the value is there. All right, Stark's going to blink on forward. They will get the Warp Prism here. ZEST looks like he's now in a wonderful position to hold as the Immortals are now going down. And look at this. Such a wonderful fight here for ZEST. He gets the Warp Prism. He gets the Immortals. And yes, he will be forced back for the time being, but he's only down 7 supply. And we do see more and more sentries getting targeted down once again by the Protoss players here on both sides. And it's only 1 sentry left on the map here for Stats. Both players blinking for their lives as more and more Stalkers are getting warped in. +1 on the way to ZEST in the middle of all of this chaos has the presence of mind to get +1 started here, and that's going to give him a nice advantage here as he looks to try to get something done. And I would not even mind him just seeing him do a mass blink on top of this army. There we go, Stark's wibbling forward, and ZEST makes the hold. Only down, actually not even down army supply anymore. And yes, there's a Warp Prism on the way. Yes, Stats has a third base done. He's not really mining from it quite yet, but ZEST holds. He has +1. He does not have a robo yet, but he will eventually. He has his third base on the way, and now there's going to be a wonderful timing here for him as he looks to move on out with +1, probably with a Warp Prism. Both players, of course, on 6 gateways. Alright, so now we got a Zealot drop coming on in from Stats, and Charge is just about halfway done, so this is not a timing that is meant to hit now. This is a timing that is meant to hit in about 30 seconds when Charge is done, and, well, actually we may see him go on in a little bit earlier just with slow Zealots, but honestly, slow Zealots don't do a whole lot. They may be useful in the early game before any sort of mobility or speed upgrades happen, but after that, you kind of need speed on them, and there we go. Legs, they're done in 15-20 seconds. And that is the timing that Stats is looking for. He's going to drop 4 in, add an additional 6, and just look to cause chaos in the ranks of the red Protoss army. The red Protoss army. So now there we go. Charge is done in 3 seconds. There we go. We will see a big warp in of 5 Stalkers here to defend things. That means these Zealots not going to get a whole lot done here, but they will force the army of ZEST back, and that's all that's important because Stats. He's got a 4th base on the way. Stats has been mining more than his opponent for a good portion of this game. And the longer he just delays, the longer he sits here and macros up and mines more and mines more and mines more and advances his tech and mines more, the better position he will be in. Now, it does look like the Warp Prism was killed. Okay, yeah, it looks like the Warp Prism was killed there, which surprises me, actually. I would have thought Stats would have been able to keep that alive. Wait, where is it? Never mind. I believe it was recalled. Apparently I cannot read unit tabs, but that's fine. Alright, so now here we go. The army of Stats really just not doing a whole lot, just posturing in the middle of the map, denying as much scouting as possible. But Stats has the 4th base, you gotta remember. Now he does not have +2, does not have +2 started. He does have +1 though. So there's a timing here where he has upgrade parity, but of course ZEST is waiting for his +2. He's waiting for that moment where he has an upgraded advantage. But again, I feel like we're in a similar situation to the previous game where, yeah, upgrades matter. They do, absolutely, but bulk matters more. And that's what's important. Because Stats has a 4th base, ZEST does not. Stats has a approximately 11 worker lead over ZEST here, so Stats is just mining more and more and more. And when that's happening, well, I don't really care about upgrade leads. I mean, I do, and they're important, but ooh, Stats is going for ZEST, excuse me, is going for armor. That is interesting. I guess it's just because he's going to be incredibly zealot focused, but anyway, armor now on the way. We do have both players posturing, and it is only a 12 army supply lead. This is something that ZEST can deal with for the moment, but now we have the warp ends, and now it's a 30 army supply lead. Zealots will run on and do what they can, and look at this hallucinated Colossus. Now, I don't think ZEST is gonna fall for this. But there we go. Oh, he's gonna get an immortal immediately. Zealot's getting on top of that. That will force ZEST to fight, but it's not exactly a fight he wants to take now. Of course, shield battery overcharge is doing a powerful thing, but the Stalkers are just going to target it down. The shield batteries, they're running out of energy. These force fields are doing God's work, though, and maybe ZEST can make a miracle hold once again. Of course, the shield batteries there working like force fields, but now we have the army of ZEST. It is being forced to back up here. The Immortals are all going down, and yes, there are shield batteries behind the mineral line. Yes, ZEST has room to retreat, but does it even matter? Is there too much stuff in this army? Is there too much DPS in this army? It looks like that very well may be the case. There's the Immortals of ZEST do stand strong. Excuse me, the Immortals of Stats. They do stand strong in Stats now on a 15 army supply lead. So many workers have gone down, even if the Immortals do fall, or excuse me, the Archons did fall in comparison. But there we have it. GG Stats hitting a wonderful timing. He's going to take game number 5, and he's going to take the series. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what we do, if you like all the content that's coming on in here, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the AlphaX YouTube channel. We're uploading stuff nearly daily, and we will absolutely be hitting the ground running with the IEM Katowice replays whenever they are released. If you like what I do, follow me on Twitter at BeoMulf_SC2 and on Twitch, twitch.tv/BeoMulf. I stream on a bunch of different places, but follow me on Twitch. I always post when and where I'm going live. But thanks so much for watching, everyone. Stay safe.